Welcome again to Utility Room Legends, and thank you to all who have listened, subscribed, and shared your feedback from our first 2 episodes. We have definitely been encouraged by the positive feedback received, and I am excited to continue working with Sky Jacob, our talented and overly patient producer, who I cannot thank enough, in delivering new episodes of the podcast every other Thursday. Episodes are available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can also visit our website at utilityroomlegends.com for episode links, and please use the contact link to reach out if you would like to be a future guest or if there's someone you know who would make a great guest. Now, I would like to formally introduce you to today's guest, Bo Skjellerup. Bo is currently the Western Regional Sales Manager for Dresser Utility Solutions, where he promotes a wide array of critical water infrastructure products. From couplings and clamps to expansion joints and large diameter custom solutions, Bo's impact spans far beyond his current role. His career has stretched across nearly 2 decades in waterworks and utility infrastructure, with leadership roles at Pacific Coast Bolt Corporation, where he served as president after 5 years in business development, securing financing, expanding manufacturing, and helping grow the company before leading its sale. He has worked with Total Piping Solutions, Nevergall Coatings, and Tyler Union, managing territories from Southern California to Hawaii. Always focused on solving the real-world challenges in the industry through product innovation and trusted relationships, Bo also spent years as a sales account manager at JM Eagle, overseeing key accounts across North America. Early in his career, he gained experience in the Latin America markets, tackling product specification of waterworks products with local governments and distributors representing several manufacturers. Bo's perspective is vast, spanning across domestic and international manufacturing as well as sales. What makes Bo legendary is not just his resume, it's his genuine care for the industry, his deep knowledge of what works and what doesn't, and his unfiltered passion for getting things done the right way. In this episode, we dive into supply chain pressures, domestic versus imported materials, the cost of not innovating, and the critical need to invest in domestic manufacturing. Bo brings history, humor, honesty, and most importantly, a deep appreciation for the people doing the work. He reminds us that behind every bolt, valve, and coupling is a story, and more often than not, a legend. Let's get into it. All right. Well, thank you, Bo, for coming on. So we're going to start out with the formalities of introducing yourself, and then I understand that you have a disclaimer that that Liga would like you to read.
Yeah. So my name is Bo. I'm with Dresser Utility. And just to get the paperwork done, the views and opinions expressed within this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Excellent. Now let's talk politics.
Tariffs, right?
Tariffs, go. Import.
Well, I think no one's got a crystal ball on what to do here with these tariffs, But
yeah, we can start right now. I mean, that's definitely been a topic. It's been brought up multiple times throughout. I know there's a lot of manufacturers that are keeping their eyes on tariffs. Kind of situation. I mean, my understanding too is something was either agreed upon last night and verbally, and now we're waiting for final. Did you hear about that? Are you aware of that?
No.
Yeah. Apparently, what I was told at least today is that a deal has been made with China, and that the permanent tariff this is the trade deal, is going to be 55% for China products imported from China, and the U.S. it will be 10% that the U.S. brings into China.
Well, I think being a manufacturer, the biggest pressure we're under right now is not to pass the full cost on, and that's creating a situation kind of before. I think during the pandemic, we were able to raise prices quite fluidly, and now You're seeing a situation where we're kind of under this pressure that, hey, even if it's 50% up, your price doesn't go 50% up.
Right, yeah.
And for someone like me, I remember when we first had the tariffs on, when I sold fasteners, I was always mad if the tariff was 18%, your price increase should say 18%, because you can always come down, can't go up.
Right.
And this has been quite the fear-mongering, I guess, situation in our industry. I mean, you hear it across the board from so many manufacturers that in November, instead of gearing up and saying, I'm going to go haywire and try to beat these tariffs, everybody kind of said, I'm going to slow things down. And I I think we're kind of almost creating a pandemic 2.0 as far as supply chain shortage.
So what are your thoughts on? Well, I mean, here's one thing I look at is, you know, waterworks a lot different than plumbing, and we are very entrenched in the plumbing market, and pricing there is not. I mean, it's almost like you have quarterly and annual increases that are on a regular schedule, and everyone knows it's coming. I mean, typically we've seen. I'll give you an example with Watts. I mean, even prior to COVID, you would see at least 1 to 2 increases a year annually. Tariffs have been set in place for years. So, I get, there's a lot of things. I think COVID changed the mindset a lot in how we look at those. And then I know after, I mean, obviously when this thing started, right, when we started going with the, what do they call it, reciprocating tariffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then China goes, okay, we're going to go 140%. We'll go 140%. I mean, what's crazy though is that people actually reacted to that. Even in the market, it's like, you can't make a business decision on that. Like, you're better off just kind of holding for a second. I mean, the situation's going to, it's going to have to resolve itself, which is what it's done.
I appreciate more now than I did back then because, the first set of tariffs we had were 14%, I think, a couple years ago. And when that happened, I was actually with Pacific Coast Bolt.
Yeah.
And our big move when we saw this shortage coming was I bought every piece of 1.5 inch 316 round bar in the country.
Sure.
And I said, I'm going to set the market price on this. And it was an aggressive move. It was $2 million, and we were a very small company. And what I see now is a little bit of appreciation for the conservativeness for some of these big organizations, because I mean, you're talking 100% tariffs at some points. I mean,
it was 140. Some of those got paid.
Yeah,
I mean, you want the canister coming off? You want us to unload the product? You're going to pay. This ain't like it's not a net 30, 2%, 15.
Well, and what I was doing, what actually happened, and it kind of took a bunch of stuff back, was the automobile manufacturers on fasteners got an exemption on tariffs.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, our bolts and nuts were auto parts.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing how that happens.
Yeah. But you're looking at it right now. Some of these guys are bringing 100,000 in, 200,000 in on a single shipment.
Right.
And you're going to eat up $500,000, $1 million in cash flow that could be better served for 100 other things.
Right. Yeah.
And if you just waited a week or, 2 days, you'd save $250,000.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question, because the reason I asked, because I had recently Chris Keffer with Eve Iron. As you know, they're very into. I'm very proud of, for a rightful reason. I mean, there's something like 1,500 ferrous metal foundries in the U.S. in the 1970s, and today there's, I want to say it's under 500. It's like 450, and Eve Iron's one of them. And they should be proud of that. A lot of work went into that. Went in and took like an old abandoned, if I remember right, it was electrical, there was a power plant, for electrical power plant. And then they went in and it was not a foundry previously, but they went in and did that and had to go through everything to do that. So prior to where we're at now, if this does fall, assuming this passes, and then it goes, if China signs this agreement, and it's 55% prior, so we were around that 10, 14, I think it was raised up to like 18 maybe, right?
Yeah.
And that was on Chinese goods, but our goods were being tariffed at about 38%, depending on, in different markets, right? So now 55-10, is that... My question too has been how, if you look at apples to apples and all things being equal, because it's not just the cost of, free labor, or is it just the labor only? But we've looked at importing materials, and we've had to export materials and send them overseas. It's not cheap. So when you have materials apples to apples, is it really apples to apples? Is it a level playing field? How do you level a playing field? Is that... I guess what's your opinion on import versus domestic?
Well, I think a big problem we had here in the U.S. is our raw material cost. We don't necessarily have the same natural resources as other countries, and a lot of our products in this industry are recycled. You know, you look at auto parts are basically melted down to make our gray iron.
Right.
And that per pound cost domestically was the same price we're paying post-import from overseas. So is it apples to apples? Absolutely not. And is the quality of the material the same? Some cases, yes. But, you know, virgin ore versus imported or recycled material from, say, Central or South America, is that the same recycled material you're going to get from U.S. steel? Probably not.
Yeah.
And how are they doing it? How are they getting their resources? The cost of energy is less. You know, all these things kind of factor into it. And we're not even talking about the finished goods. Right. You know, we're kind of just starting with the bare pieces of everything that we're dealing with. And I think, you know, you look at other industries. Like, I started my career in valves and hydrants. In the U.S., we're kind of open for business. Anybody can come in from any country, drop a valve on us. Sure, we have our standards, like we have a gland or, you know, a bonnet. But you kind of look at these products and you look at Europe and it's like, oh, there's a bunch of countries in Europe. Mm-hmm. And every country has their own fire hydrant. And that's how they do market protection. Right. Whereas in the U.S., we're 300 million people using one standardized type of product.
Well, it creates global trade and enterprise. And I mean, yeah. In Europe, I mean, that's something too I want to talk about as we get into water at some point because, you know, they're definitely much more efficient in water infrastructure than we are. And they've been doing it for a long time.
Well, I'm half Danish, and they're very proud people. All their pipelines are polyethylene. Yeah. But they only use fresh well water. And when the well goes bad, they plug it up and dig a new well. There's no treatment plants. And there's only 6 million people there and a lot more land. So they got a lot more water resources. Here, we're scratching for every bit we got. Right. So, I mean, you know, kind of going apples to apples, a liter of water coming from an untreated well that's great, pristine condition, you know, no other pollutants in it, you know, and here in California or Arizona, you know, we're pulling water out of the mountains, out of wells, and it's full of fluoride, and we're having to treat it, or, you know, we have...
Hey, man, don't knock our Colorado water.
Well, the Colorado water has quite a journey it's got to take to get to, and, you know, some of these things that we're doing with you know, so... One of the first projects I ever did was on the Rio Grande. Okay. 272-inch, 363-inch metal-seated gate valves. And there used to be all this water flowing into Mexico. Well, if you look at it now, they probably could do it with a 6-inch gate valve because we're not letting anything flow from the Colorado River into the Rio Grande anymore. So you're seeing a lot of change, and you almost can't compare yourself or beat yourself up for the fact that our infrastructure, our needs, our populations are so different.
And I mean, and let's face it. I mean, government has a lot to do with it. Even when we talk about when we're mentioning, like, you know, the cost of energy. When you were talking about importing from South America or China. I mean, a company can have their cost offset if they're basically owned by the government or the government's involved in subsidizing. So, I mean, there's another X factor there, right? And then which brings up another point that we discussed. And I'd say after COVID, it should have definitely raised some concerns. Like, you know, is there a national security concern with being so heavily reliant on, on import? And I'm just taking it in general, like not having as many foundries, not having the capability to produce. You look at COVID. I mean, what happened in our industry? I mean, the best ability became, as Nick and I would always say, the best ability is availability right now. I mean, you want it in 50 weeks, 20, and meanwhile, people still need water. Yeah. So, I mean, at what point is there concern? You know, we have to at least ensure that we have the capability. You look at World War II, and prior to the United States getting involved after Pearl Harbor, of all the countries that were involved in World War II, Axis and Ally, I believe the United States had either the smallest or the second smallest Navy. And within 6 months, we were the largest or the second largest. And that was by turning on the American manufacturers. Now, obviously, you had, Bradford's cool story, right, at TPS. I thought that was awesome. were sitting right. Don't they have like bomb shelters because they right? And
yeah. So during World War II, Bradford was where Dresser was making the Dresser style coupling.
Yeah.
And it became a hardened military facility because it was considered a strategic asset. And in fact, we were considered to be so strategic and so important that they said, we can't have you in one place. And they actually made us surrender equipment and send it to California. And that's how Baker Coupling was started. And we had to give it for free. The government just basically came in and said, you're too valuable to be all in one place. One bomb and our water infrastructure shot. I mean, obviously the market's changed quite a bit.
But wasn't Bradford also producing? Was it ammunition for tanks?
Yeah. I mean, everybody got.
Everyone was. I mean, Watts was making rifles.
McWane was making tank chassis.
That's cool shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you like Mueller was making. I know during World War II, their foundries were. I mean, everyone was involved. I guess that's like the real we're in it together.
Well, it's so funny. We're so competitive now, but if you ever gave us the chance, we'd probably all get back together, and it could be a good thing for consolidation in the industry, because actually what you're seeing now is less and less and less. There's less foundries in the U.S. running.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Mr. Collins from JCM told me that in the 70s there was over 20 coupling manufacturers, and now we're basically down to 4 guys that can do the big stuff.
Well, we know what, and so that's part of that's the foundry, and part of it's being bought.
Yes.
Because right now, when it comes to valves that are manufactured in the U.S., I mean, it's been bought down to essentially 3.
Well, okay, so up to 36-inch. You go above that, everyone goes to Glidewell. Everyone uses the same foundry. It doesn't matter whether you're brand X, Y, or Z, Mueller, Watts, McWane. Pretty much if you want to do something big, you're doing sand castings over a Glidewell.
Yeah, I mean, well, the process for that is extensive. It's like, you go down to the EBA foundry and you see the EBA foundry, they're large diameter, right, with the sand molds. And I mean, that's an extensive process.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but when you look at it, definitely is. I mean, the foundry that was the whole going from 1,500 in the 70s to we only have 500, and then, I mean, yeah, you can imagine those guys are always getting phone calls, right? Especially when you deal with AIS and BABA. And you can imagine every foundry is probably like, yeah, we don't even have. Okay, yeah, you want us to make a valve? Got it. You want us to cast this? I mean, those guys are busy keeping up on their own.
Yeah, I think a big problem is in the 1980s, everybody decided to move offshore.
Yep.
And now we find a little bit of incestuousness in our industry. The fact that probably if you're getting a bonnet for a domestic gate valve, it might be coming from only one foundry, but it supplies 5 different brands. All you do is swap the pattern
and
out.
It's bronze. So it's under 50% by measured cost.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder what that. I like that. I love how attorneys can by measured cost. Well, how are we going to measure it?
Well, that's the problem we're at today. Is what's the definition of what? It's that complicated. I used to export into Mexico with NAFTA, and supposedly free trade, but it had to be American made. Well, we were bringing in castings from overseas and assembling product in the U.S. So we found a quick trick. We changed out the stainless steel stem in all of our 4-inch valves to say that as a whole, we do so much 4-inch going south of the border that now we can qualify as a domestic-made product, even though all the big stuff is the stainless steel and wouldn't qualify without the 4-inch. And, the minutia is, I guess, everybody kind of cheats a little bit, but not cheating, but say bend the rules. But that's always the game, right?
As a Marine, I can appreciate improvising, adapting. It's funny, but yeah, it is funny. That's to a kind of a tongue in cheek. Is it cheating, or is it really like? Well, I mean, you kind of left it open there to interpretation, and I mean that's one thing is what. Well, look in business, okay. I mean, in business and how business is run internally, it's not open for interpretation, right? You want a behavior, you incentivize a behavior, right? If you're dealing with salespeople or if you're dealing with quality control, right? You look at what you're trying to accomplish and you want to incentivize that result because that's how this works, right? People don't come to work, they don't come to work because they want to out of the goodness of their heart. They come to work to make money. So when you look at what if the intent is we want to increase domestic manufacturing, is handing out money for and then putting in things that are open to interpretation for products and materials, is that the best practice, or is it actually incentivizing companies that want to produce materials in the United States? That's kind of something. I mean, why not get somebody who wants to put a foundry? Because the other problem too is when you look, and I don't blame anyone who has a factory overseas. I mean, like you said, we moved overseas. I mean, this is millions and hundreds of millions of dollars invested, and you want us to pick up and move everything back to the U.S. based on a change in administration every 4 years? I mean, how long does it take to move from China and put a foundry? How long would it take to get a foundry put in the United States from scratch?
I mean, I think it's a 5-7 year timeline, and that's
right.
We're on a 4-year election schedule.
Right?
How do you make a bet?
You can't. I mean, it's like, it's as stupid as going to somebody and saying, "Hey, I want you to take everything you own and put it on black and let it ride."
Well, and the problem is you want
to do the backgammon. We
want to compete, right? We don't want to lose out on that business. I mean, actually, if you look it up, the U.S. government got done just suing 2 fastener manufacturers because they were bringing in dowel pins, sticking them through a threader. Now they're American-made domestic studs, and I had a problem with it when I saw it. But then when you kind of go through the minutia of it all, the lawsuit cost these 2 companies almost $1 million in legal fees. But they kind of ended up going, well, you know what? You're right. A dowel pin isn't a threaded stud. Mm-hmm. You're changing something. It's like changing.
Was this for AIS or BABA compliance? Because that would make a difference, right? Because technically, for BABA, it's the only one that gives you a defined manufactured product, or what they call is iron product. And they say, what's an iron product? They say valves. Well, but then if I have a control valve that has external tubing and controls and pilotry, and that's custom and that's fabricated by application, is that a valve or is that a manufactured component? And if you're going to change the threads, is that now a bolt, or is that to become a fabricated product, manufactured?
Well, it's getting so complicated now. I mean, iron and steel, that made sense.
Right.
Now you got manufactured goods, construction materials, and iron and steel.
Job site materials. You see that? I mean, it's like down to the, your backhoe better be made in the USA. And that is in that is part of those provisions.
Yeah, and we all know that if you buy a heavy piece of equipment, heavy civil mechanical equipment, that's got parts from overseas in every single direction.
So, yeah.
And how does Caterpillar, how does all these big companies go and justify that? Well, they sit there and say, well, I changed some components to brass, and where did the brass come from? Well, it's U.S. made because I modified the brass, and I'm swapping out the iron. And at some points, they're almost making us kind of do backflips and handstands for something that.
And so that's why I brought up, would it not be a better alternative to incentivize a company? So take the money, and you can still put in, and you can still have funds allocated for projects that are, domestic or, material standards. But let's first get the manufacturer back here. So how we can take that money and say, hey, what are the challenges you're having for putting a foundry here? Can we look at fast tracking, or, having, and a lot of the red tape that's done, it's like the timeline. It's like for inspections, site approvals, right? I mean, all the red tape you have to go through to put a foundry in, maybe put the investment into fast tracking that, maybe put the investment into, we're going to, like, if you have workers that, they can't, maybe it's a family where the husband works and the wife works, and the wife can't go to work because they got the kids. So maybe you provide money so that the company can have a daycare facility there. I mean, things like, wouldn't it make more sense to incentivize a company who wants to build in the U.S. instead of giving money away for products and then providing, loopholes?
I guess we'll never
know because it's not going to happen.
Loopholes. Well, you're making me think of certain things where maybe, right now, I guess the state revolving funds for
SRF,
yeah, the clean water.
And SRF is all going to be AIS, not BABA, unless you're under the, right? Is that how that works, right?
Yeah, it's really confusing because it's also because we've passed some rules for, like, I guess until 2030, we're pumping an extra $5 billion a year into those funds, but those funds also have $1 billion permanent infusement going on, and so it's kind of crazy when Dodge came around. He was like, well, you don't need that $1 billion because we're giving you the
you're
$5
talking about Doge.
Yeah,
Doge,
yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
We're gonna find Elon's gonna find so much.
Yeah,
It's gonna be great.
Well, we almost.
Well, there's nothing wrong with accountability and finding waste and fraud. Which, I mean, let's be honest. We all don't have to be this naive to sit here. I mean, we all laughed in like Independence Day, right? When they're on the Air Force One. Do you remember that? Do you remember that movie, right?
Yeah, I remember that movie.
Remember when he goes, when they find out about Area 51, like, oh, that's not real. It's all bullshit. Area 51, you guys had it. You knew about it. And he's like, that's not entirely true. And they go through it. How'd you guys pay for this? And he goes, we don't think they spent, $5 million on a hammer, $10 million on a toilet. I mean, we laugh because we know that shit happens. I worked. Look, government does a lot of things. Government can do things good, and what they should do good is provide the environment for people to flourish and protect people. Government does not do business good, because government it's really easy when you're spending everyone's money, and that's the bottom line. I mean that's not to get political, but to get political.
You look at their an Air Force thermos, right? Well, you're talking like $600 for a little thermos to go on the airplane because it's mil-spec rated, and you start to go, well, do they need this? Do they not need this? I mean, part of the problem, I think, we look at a government and we say it should be efficient. Well, the government's not a business; it's a steward. It's
correct.
It's to shepherd us from A to B, keep us in line, give us normalizers, and
But it does have money.
It does,
and if you and it's not their money, it's our money. And if you don't run it efficient, you're wasting. And so and they do have money. That's the whole point of. I understand the efficiency side. That's really it should be. That's why I'm saying, would it make more sense to incentivize because business does it better. It just does.
Yeah, I think. I mean, ultimately, the tax burden comes to the taxpayer. I mean, like it's. When a ductile iron fitting is $20,000 imported but $60,000 domestic, what's going on here? Why are we there? Is it because they're having to abide by more regulations as far as environmental? I mean, I've seen foundries in China, and I've asked them, hey, what's the safety protocol? What safety protocol? We got people. Someone gets Johnny Tremaine, you just got another sub to go right in there. Yeah. And in the U.S., we're saying, that's abhorrent. Well, that's their reality.
And all their employees have minimum wage with paid vacations, right? In China, right? No, they don't.
I don't think that.
Have you seen the? Was that the factory for where they make the iPhone? Have you seen the
Foxconn or whatever,
where they have like the nets to catch people from jumping?
Yeah. And okay, you work at a factory.
Look, let's be honest. If I had to make a coupling every day, I'd probably jump.
Well, there's certain I mean, we still have these things. We got grinding booths, we got bolt hole drilling booths, and that's mundane labor. And actually, you could probably robotize that.
That's being done.
It's being done by certain guys and not by other guys.
It's impressive when you see these things coming off the line.
Well, I always looked at like drilling a flange, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it used to be done by a guy with a hand drill, then they came out with these, if it's the bolt hole, 6 bolt holes, it's a 6 drill bit tool. Yeah. What we found was when using these 6 bolt hole tools, it's easy for the guy. He just pulls the lever, it comes down.
Yep.
But it's so mundane that he doesn't notice if one of the 6 heads wears out.
Correct.
And what we're finding is the CNC with one head that does them one at a time is better because when that drill bit wears out, you notice it and you replace it. I mean, I think everyone in the industry has seen a MJ or ductile iron fitting flange that's missing a bolt hole.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do they do that? How are they so stupid that happened? Well,
because it's mundane and you're doing it all day long. And I mean, have you ever been reading a book and then realize that you're reading, but you're thinking of something else? And then you get down to 3 pages later, what did I just read? And that's kind of that mundane process. So when I was in the Marine Corps, they used to call it muscle memory. That's that muscle memory. Right. Other than being drunk, have you ever driven home and just been thinking and then just, I'm home? Because your muscle memory, you do it. And that's part of that, taking that mundane part out, and that's where those errors come into play.
Well, it's also hard, I think, too, the whole economy's changed. The pricing's changed. The inflation's happened. And you can't just get a simple job. I mean, All the people that bought their houses in California in the 1970s, half of them could have been flipping burgers and afforded their houses.
Right.
And
you could have made it.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
could have.
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, you. There's no hope right now. And when we're
Oh,
coming.
no. We're not going back to hope and change. But isn't where all the infrastructure?
Yeah. I mean, it's real hard.
There's no doubt. I mean, look. I mean, one thing I can really appreciate, and it's been needed, is infrastructure spending. And the only reason when I say that, it's like everyone is alert. Everyone knows about healthcare. Anyone who's anyone, it doesn't matter what you do or what your knowledge is, you know that the healthcare system has issues and flaws that can be improved upon. But very few people, when you see, like infrastructure spending, like, yeah, you don't care about it until you bitch about it, right? It's like, you try, the roads are freaking terrible. Water is, like, people don't realize, again, which I always said, I probably said in every single one of these podcasts, if you asked me 13 years ago where water came from, I said the faucet. And that's how everybody thinks. They go home, they turn on, they get home from work, they get themselves some ice, and they go and they turn on the faucet, or they put that cup, in the dispenser, in the refrigerator, and they get their water. And they don't think twice about everything that's involved in that. And the problem that you don't realize is populations are growing everywhere. I mean, especially, I know people are leaving California, right?
Only 20,000 a month or so.
But they're coming to places. I mean, we're in Colorado. It's been going on for years. Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Montana. I mean, these are systems that were put in place when their population was half or less of what it is. Their operating budgets didn't increase, but now they have to provide water to supply water to more people. So if you were a business owner and I said you have to provide this product to double the amount of people you did before, and by the way, we don't give you anything else to invest in doing that, what's going to be the result?
I think we're against a ticking clock that nobody realizes. I mean, you look at the United States, there's 50 states. Well, I think there's only 2 states that produce more water than they consume, Colorado and Hawaii. Well,
but our water's already sold.
Yeah, it's all going out.
It's gone.
Yeah. And you can't put a pipeline from Hawaii to California.
Well, what's funny about that is I used to love hearing people that would go, because I thought about this. This is how crazy. And what I hope in these podcasts is that people remember before they got in this. Because once you're in this industry, you get hooked. And especially if you understand what's going on. And it's encouraging to see a younger generation coming in. Like when I see 20-year-old kids and they're like passionate and they're engaged and they're talking about it, I'm excited because they're going to this has to be solved. But if you remember, you're like, well, why can't we make a pipeline like we do oil? Why can't we desalinate and then just pump water like, the United States? Oh, I guess we didn't understand, gravity. And then what's the biggest expense? Pumping costs. Can you imagine how much power it would take in energy to, put a bunch of 36 or 60-inch lines and pump water, across the country?
I think William Shatner came up with the idea a few years ago to run 2 48-inch lines from the Columbia River all the way to California. But that's William Shatner not knowing how our industry works and the politics of our industry. And, you think that pipeline...
Well, but he got on a bridge and said warp speed and they went.
Yeah, there's no good solution. I mean, we're fighting an aging infrastructure. Dresser, we do a lot of raw water, dams, hydroelectric. And our heyday was in 1950s. It was bang, 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 PEM stocks everywhere. Mm-hmm. Now we just refurbish them.
Right.
And the problem was maybe our product was a little bit too good because, lifetime of a pipeline is supposed to be 50 years. Well, we're approaching 70, 80 years on some of this stuff.
Well, they 75 to 100. Right? That's when we get the class. I'm like, and then I asked the utility guys, I'm like, you guys, I mean, sure, there's systems out there that are 75 to 100, but they're already pretty much done. They're falling apart. Yeah, but I mean, that was the whole thing is a 100-year lifespan. That's what we want to get to. But yeah.
I mean, I actually was just talking to an engineer from Edison, and she was freaking out because we were replacing a coupling on a 100-year-old piece of pipe. And she was like, I was like, oh, well, you should really clean that pipe up, put it back around, bevel it, grind it. She's like, I'm not going to touch a 100-year-old piece of pipe. And I was like, you don't understand. This pipe's been maintained. It's been painted. It's been indoors where it's connecting to this, pump room. And it's still good. But not every 100-year pipe is the same.
No.
And, I think LADWP, their current rate of replacement, they'll replace every pipe in the system in 300 years.
So national average is 200 years. The rate is 0.0. It's less than 0.01 per year for replacement, which means it's going to take, or 0.1. It'll take 200 years to replace this. That's nationally. So yeah, that makes sense. That's a math problem there.
Yeah, and I've been in Hawaii, and actually most of the joints, when you get outside of the city, rural water, is leaded caulk joints, and they're leaking. Every single one of them's leaking. They're in a different situation where they got lots of water. They just keep putting it through there. But yeah, it's we're up against kind of a clock right now in our industry.
And people don't realize that. It's coming.
Yeah, and the failures will get bigger and bigger. I mean, everybody remembers this 90-inch, 600 PSI line that blew up in LA and flooded UCLA's brand new rec field that had a 6-story underground parking structure. And the cost was so immense and the damage was so deep.
This is what I really hope starts to come out of, hopefully this. The only reason I'm doing this is because I've always been passionate about change in the industry. And once I found out and I really do value the operators, the utility operators, the guys that work at, there's areas in Wyoming where you have, a town or a city. I would give as many shout outs as I could to those guys, like out in, the guys in Lander or Lusk or Gillette. And if I miss one, I'll catch you on one, Casper, town of Midwest. These guys have, Shoshone, these guys have 3 or 4 guys, and then half of them are also volunteer firefighters. And it's bullshit. It really is. And the systems, and the amount, Wyoming's increasing their population. In some of these towns, they're doubling or tripling. They're getting ready to put a friggin' nuclear power plant in, I believe the way you pronounce it is Wyoming. Have you heard about this?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos, some joint venture, I believe, are... Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's Bill Gates.
And those two people can't be in the same room.
A lot's changed. There's been some crazy stuff. I think Elon and Trump could be in the same room a few years ago, so you never know. But look at it. I believe it is. It's Gates and Buffett are putting a nuclear, and this is for data centers, which we can get in, which is all about AI. And we are seeing that in our industry a lot. I have to go out and work on a PRV at a data center, and I said I'm going to say whatever I want on here, but I don't even think I want to even mention where it is or who it is, because anytime we work on one of these data centers, you have to go through a friggin' process, right? But these data centers require a large amount of water, right, to cool. They're using it to cool, and in this town, they don't have an infrastructure for that. It's a town. I want to say the population's 2,600, 3,000. It's in the Star Valley area in Wyoming, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's right on the Wyoming-Idaho border, somewhere around there. Beautiful country. This is beautiful country. And they're going to put a nuclear power plant there, which is great. I'm for all forms of energy, but they don't have any infrastructure, and they're asking the utility to provide the water infrastructure. And this thing, if probably speaking out of my ass, 6 to 9 MGD, is what they need in usage to provide water. And this is a town of 2,600, 3,000. And you got 3 or 4 guys there. And these guys, their job is more important than first responders and firefighters, because we need water. Look what people did, during COVID, over toilet paper.
A lot of people say, what's the most important utility? Is it gas? Is it electricity? Is it water? I'd say 14 days without water, society ends.
Yeah.
I think 14 days without gas.
14 days as you're pushing Wyoming and Utah. Here in Colorado, it's like 3. It's like, no water. What's going on?
Well, people scream when they can't heat their house. People scream when they can't take a shower to flush their toilet. Flushing their toilet usually gets them the most upset. We don't realize how much of a glass egg we live in. We're always like one step away from total society disaster. We don't learn our lessons from the past. We don't know what happened to the mines, but we think they ran out of water. And then it turned into a rainforest afterwards. That doesn't make any sense.
I think that's just the irony of God. All right, you're gonna do that. All right, we'll make this funny though when it's over.
I think a lot of what we're seeing, is water is so important, and there are alternatives. But I think in Las Vegas, our biggest use of water is cooling towers.
Yeah,
because it's so expensive to air condition. These big casinos are using cooling towers to bring the temperature down from 120 to 80, and then they're using the AC.
Well, number one, somebody says, "Look, nobody should friggin' live here." Okay. But if anything else, Vegas is the perfect example of how of what we can accomplish. Nobody should freaking be living there. But it's, hey, I love going. It's beautiful, right? Because that's how great. That's what it shows the ingenuity of man. And I'll tell you what's funny is I remember how many times did you hear about how Las Vegas will have no water in the next 3 years, and they have done a phenomenal job. They really have. I don't even know anyone in Las Vegas water, but I want to freaking shake their hand. They've done a phenomenal job of turning that from 3 years and there's no more water to they are on the forefront of how to make every freaking drop count.
They are very good, and most of our water is recycled. And it's quite impressive. So when I was 2005, I did like a 6-week backpacking trip in Hawaii. And I'm sitting there, and they're handing me this stuff about Oahu. They're like, Oahu's got 4, maybe 10 years of water left, and Oahu will have no more water.
You're talking about freaking an island.
And then you get on the island, you look around, and they built a giant desal plant. And, one of the things they were saying is we're going to have no more water. What they found out is fresh water makes a lens in the aquifers because it's volcanic and it's hollow. And there's actually this lens of fresh water floating on the salt water. And it's the biggest reservoir of fresh water we've ever found. The island is actually like a giant water container. And, but you can't really trust anything anyone says, because in 2005, everyone was freaking out about the max exodus from Hawaii because 1.5 million people in Oahu are going to run out of water.
Well, before that, I thought that whole thing was just supposed to be buried when the ice caps melted. I graduated from high school in '96, and it was like, and I remember seeing this stupid freaking map of the U.S., and like Florida was gone. I'm like, it's still here.
Yeah, Waterworld is going to happen left and right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. It is an entertaining movie to watch. But yeah, I think that's like, isn't that like the biggest bust movie of all time? I think if I remember like how much money. That's set, and they're like, all right, we got to take this thing to Universal Studios and get some money back. They did the whole show there.
That wasn't the island they built actually is still like, I think it's finally sunk, but they didn't know what to do with it, that set, and they just left it out there floating in the ocean, for years and years. I don't know. You see a lot of this kind of weird waste stuff happen, but Waterworld was almost like left-wing propaganda fear-mongering. We were all so scared. I mean,
no.
I think you were a kid in the 90s growing up, too.
Oh, yeah, dude. Those best times, dude. 90s were the best.
Yeah, it was...
Well, I do wish sometimes I could be, like... Yeah, I was born in 79.
83.
83. My wife was 81. So, I'm proud to be a Gen X. You guys have that, like, Xennial.
I think 81 is the first millennial.
It is, yeah.
But the first millennial versus
freaking Gen X till I die, baby. And then my wife, like, Xennial. You got to be that one in the middle. But it was like, we grew up with, played outside, right? Yeah, we were playing out until the street lights came on. Mm-hmm. We had all the all the best cartoons. I mean, I remember
It's
G.I.
10
Joe.
p.m. Do you know who your kids are?
Yeah. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? Yeah. Like,
I learned it from watching you.
Did you go through Dare? Like, but that's, but yeah, that's when I remember the whole, between Waterworld and all that, like the polarized caps. Remember the, you don't hear much about the aerosol and the ozone layer now.
Oh, they fixed that.
Yeah, we fixed it. So all we did was we stopped using aerosol products.
Hairspray, no more hairspray.
And then we brought them back. But we fixed it so good that it doesn't do it anymore.
There's still a hole, but I realize the hole actually happened every year, So I think the problem with everything we're doing, I mean, we kind of got started with building stuff back in America is that misinformation, and some of the stuff you brought up about should we invest in America infrastructure or make it easier for these people? I almost think right now interest rates are high, and so manufacturers can't borrow money.
Well, that's a problem. Yeah, I mean that's there. I mean we're trying to expand our warehouse, and that comes into play. I look
at the home building industry, right? So now we're pumping up houses and saying this is $800,000 house. You can buy an old house for $500,000 or a new house for $800,000. But if you buy this house for $800,000, your interest rate is half what it would be for a $500,000 house. We're playing all these games.
Isn't the problem we're just freaking spoiled ass rotten? I mean, like, I lived in Mexico. I tell my kids all the time, and there's complaining about no Wi-Fi, right? Oh, internet's down. I'm like, and I lived in Mexico. I lived in a town called Amayuca, in a Estado de Morelos, and it was at the base of the volcano there.
Oh, that one city that the volcano popped up in the 80s and just became like a 1,000-foot mountain?
I don't think that's Popocatépetl.
Oh, okay.
But Popo is the big volcano. You can see it from Mexico City.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
The base of that. And in this town, I mean, dirt floor. And this is in 1998. And my kids are bitching about no Wi-Fi. I mean, is part of the problem we're just really, really spoiled and indulgent and just, I mean, that could be a whole nother podcast anyway. But, we want water, but we don't want to hear about your pains. We don't want to pay for it. Don't raise the rates. And that's another complaint I have is who do you use for power in Las Vegas? Who do you pay your utility bill to? Power.
It's kind of funny. I have solar panels, so I don't even have a power bill. But
that doesn't really
work. I want to say it's.
See, mine's Excel. Okay. And Excel Energy. My bill has gone up every freaking year, for the last 10 years. And I don't complain. Oh, I do complain. Don't matter. But, man, you raise water rates, and it's like, dude, they're going to freaking riot with pitchforks in the streets. But, so you want the water. Like, can you live without power? I mean, we did it before, right? So what if, like, everyone went on, like, a energy, like, strike, right? Can you, screw you, we're not paying the bills. They're still going to need water. But we won't pay for it. It's kind of like the whole joke about the board member, right? He's not going to give you the budget you want until he buys the lot on this big, property, $2 million house, and it doesn't have water to it. Now you get the money to get the tap to his house because, I need water.
Well, I used to live in Atlanta, and their sewer infrastructure inside the perimeter blew up. They just spent $2 billion. They didn't have the money for it. So my water bill, I live in Atlanta in like a $700 a month apartment. My water bill was $150. I calculated it out. I was paying like $5 a toilet flush. I mean, it was crazy.
That's when you be cheap and you just, go in everyone else's house when you're visiting. Can I use the bathroom?
Yeah, hey, I'm coming over. It's like, why? No, but we end up paying for it if we don't address it, So I think my water bill was $150 a month, and 25% went to the water. $100 went to $80 went to the sewer infrastructure. They did a bond or something, and we all had to contribute. But it was nuts to me because then you go someplace else and your water bill is $20 a month, $15 a month. We kind of run into these things, and we don't really.
I wonder if part of the problem too isn't the way that everything was set up, where it was kind of like the Wild Wild West. Like you have over in the east, like going east and coming in west. I don't know on the east how common is a private purveyor for profit in the east, like.
I think most of these things are not for profit. They're
Not when you get in west.
yeah.
I mean, I know Denver Water's a private agency, right? I know there's other districts and groups that are private, right? And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I think what happened though when these started, there's a documentary I saw on the airplane. It's like it was about like the water war in California. I don't know if you saw. Have you heard of this at all? I mean, you could probably give a better rundown about the aquifer that basically,
Mulholland.
Okay, but how all of that, right? How all of that, it was like the Wild West, and it was for profit. Is part of it when there's no collaboration, and you're not working together for what's best for the system. Like you're just looking at it as I'm gonna grab as much as I can, sell water for profit.
Well, I think a lot of it is people get put in hostile situations. I heard Mulholland got all these politicians in the room and just wouldn't let them leave. He just kept the party going. And like after about 72 hours, they wanted to leave so bad they just signed their water rights away.
That's in that documentary.
Yeah.
And I would love to get somebody on that that could go through that. Because that one, I remember that's when I think I'd only been in the industry like a couple of years. Mm-hmm. I was flying out to California to visit the U.S. Saws, the Foundry, in Santa Ana. We were going down and trying out all the tools. They have their facility there, and I watched that video, and I was just like, it was crazy. It was like the Wild West. Didn't people get accused of murdering people over it? And
so I once got a job in Mexico, where a guy stood up and said, "Over my dead body will blank contractor get this job."
And they got it over his dead body?
Yeah, he was found dead, naked, and accused of being a homosexual. No one said a thing, and we got the job. I had a PO. And when your distributor is that aggressive...
Once again, we're going to go back and read the disclaimer that Bo started this with.
I'm not saying anyone did anything. Maybe he did have some issues, but I've seen it in this industry. Let me just put it that way. And... pedimentos used to be a thing. I used to be an outside salesman in Central America. They used to say, "Bo, leave the room."
Well, in Mexico, everything was done by the government. Like you had like Pemex, right? Oil and gas, Pemex, that's government, right? Telemex, that's your telephone.
And the 90s to the mid 2000s, if you did a job in Mexico with government money, they actually paid the job in dollars. They didn't. They would actually pay the vendor in dollars. They wouldn't bother with pesos. So the peso would crash, bounce, go all over.
We don't care about pesos.
But it was very strange because they always managed to pay.
Yeah, I that's one. Do you know Eduardo? Oh my gosh,
Eduardo Alvarez.
Such a great guy, man. I love Eduardo.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and
I would love to get him on here to talk about water in Mexico. Plus, I'm still learning vocabulary, which is hard. Like, people are like, well, you speak Spanish, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't understand all I do like flashcards, like tubo, like agua potable, like
Torino,
agua
Skoma.
sanitario. Like, I don't, that's like, I'm like, yes, I can have a conversation, but I don't know how to explain how you tighten a megalug in Spanish, right? I'm like, esta cosa aquí va.
El Torino.
Yeah.
Torque.
It's snap. I think it's snap.
But in Mexico, a lot of the water districts are elected positions.
Okay.
So you only care about your term. It's not a 50-year plan. It's
great. So now it's politics.
How do I get in?
How do I make water great again? You're going to have so much good water.
I had a customer that bought so much HDPE corrugated. I swear to God, they were just burying it and throwing it in the ground. I mean, if you think about it, a trickle of water was going through this storm drain, and that was actually the water supply. And I've been in towns in Mexico where literally it's a hill, and it's a giant reservoir, and there's 8 gate valves. And
elevated storage tank.
Yeah. And they open one valve at a time. So everyone had storage tanks on top of their house. They pump the water out.
Yeah, yeah. And then you get a pump.
Yeah, it's like 3 a.m. That's my water time. I'm going to pump and store on my house. And unfortunately, these people were politicians. We all know politicians, whether Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. They're not going to do anything for you, but their house is going to get twice as big, and they're going to get a swimming pool, And the same thing with any politician. So,
I mean, it's a water board. That's what a water board is, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
elected or selected.
Isn't that the dream job? Is go serve on a water board? Maybe serve on 2.
They'd hate me because I'd be like, "What do you guys need? Let's do something cool. Like let's figure this out. We're gonna have the most efficient." I would love to do it, but then someone would be like, "Oh, you're spending too much money," or I would love for some utility to be like, "Look, we are gonna have the best fucking system, and we are gonna supply water. Like we are gonna look at our goal is less than 5%." Non-revenue, non-bill water loss, less than 5% in a year. I'd love for somebody to go in who understands business and then looks at solutions just as an experiment. I mean, if I was a massive company, wink, wink, I'm sure there's a bunch of them out there. Like, I would work with a small system, and I'd say, let's do this. Let's take the current, the most innovative shit that we have, and let's go out there and let's show you what we can do. Because we have to solve 6 billion gallons of clean drinking water every single day lost is insane. It's absurd. And it's not sustainable. That's 6 billion gallons every flipping day. And it doesn't need to be like that. We can solve it. It's not. And the hardest thing is, for a utility, and what's encouraging is you're seeing a lot more of these utilities where you see these different approaches, outside the box thinking. Because, when I look at a lot of these guys, what I'll tell them is, I'll ask everyone to raise their hand. How many of you guys have been doing this for 5 years? Keep your hand up. Everyone, 80% of the room's got their hand raised. How many have been doing it for 10? Keep your hand up. 15, 20, 30, 35, and now we're down to 4 or 5. 40, there's 1, and I tell, but thank you. Because that is such a thankless job, because I look at how long when I started what I knew to nothing, and nobody realizes how much goes into doing that. And so when I ask how long they've been doing that for, we have to think outside the box. And I tell them, now remember when you started, right? And I tell them in this class, I don't know if you remember this, since we were talking about being Gen X. Do you remember these tests that they would give you in school, like elementary school? I mean, I swear, there's personality tests or something like that. Where it told you what you should be when you grow up.
Career fairs.
Thank you. See, so many people go I've never seen that. But it's people that are, in their 40s, mine was police officer.
Mine was astronaut or chef.
Dude, you should have been an astronaut.
I wanted to cook in space.
Freeze dried. But yeah, and so you remember those tests, right? And so I was joking. I know every one of you, yours said water operator. No, you got into it because you just kind of fell into it. You got hooked. But I'm go back to when you started and you saw this guy teaching you the ropes and what to do. I've been out I've been on job sites several times. I love going out there. Been out in the field. Go out and do PRV startups. You watch a guy do something and you're I can imagine this guy now who's been doing it for 40 years when he started, watch this guy do it who trained him. This would have been, 1970s, 60s, maybe, 80s, early. Why did you do that like that? Why didn't you just do this and this and that? Do you remember that? And those guys and I go, what did he tell you? And he goes, that's the way it's always been done, man. We've always done it this way. And you're hell-bent at that age where you're going to be I'm going to change it. When I'm in charge, things are going to be different. I'm now, fast forward to today, and you're doing something, and that young kid comes in, and he's he's on his phone. I get it, smug, he's on his phone, right? You can do, and he says, why don't you do this? And what do you tell him? Remember, you were going to change shit. And what do you tell them? And they all do this. That's the way we've always done it.
Yeah, you look at the young guys and you say, you don't know what you're talking about. And the truth is, it's finally happening. When I got in the industry, I was 22. And it was a tough industry. Everyone was 40 years old or older, and they didn't like you.
Yeah.
It was the guillotine. They wanted to get you out of here. So now, though, I'm seeing our generation is finally coming up. We're becoming the managers in the industry,
So you were 22 when you started. What year would that have been?
2006. 6.
So yeah, I started in 2013. I think the thing started to change. I think you saw some guys that were understanding and they embraced, because I have a lot of guys like Jim Jolly or still, but
The clock's ticking now, though.
like Brent, obviously,
Yeah.
but guys like Daryl, guys you can see they're like, okay, we need some young people in here.
I mean, the truth is, when I started in the industry, they did not like young
Right.
people. I mean, they wanted them out. But now everyone's retiring.
Yeah.
And look at every operator you meet. You go to a utility, 90% of the operators are probably under 25.
Yeah.
And the guys don't have experience.
Yeah.
And they're being promoted on these new products, restrained products. I mean, I think a big problem in the industry is innovation is very tough. Why?
That comes up every podcast.
American Waterworks Association standards. Who sits on the board? The manufacturers. The manufacturers decide their own standards. Well, I sell repair clamps.
All right, now you're really freaking going that. All right.
C230 or whatever, right? 50 PSI, 1.5 inch safety factor, 75 PSI max. And everyone's sitting there looking at that going, that's the standard. Well, then you get all the manufacturers to say, let's put a PSI standard. Yeah. We're all for it. 100 PSI. Yeah. Let's make it 100 PSI. So 100
That's nothing here, by the way.
I know. But you know what happened is they all agreed to set a standard for operating pressure. Yeah. They all went back, tested their product, and came back and said no.
That sounds like a conspiracy.
Well, if I end up in a ditch,
you're a conspiracy theorist. Misinformation, fake news, right there. Now, what's funny is that what's the difference between conspiracy and fact? 3 weeks.
Aliens, conspiracy. Wait, no.
I'll tell you what's funny is when I first started, there was 2 impactful moments for me. One was a gentleman by the name of John Roberts. I don't know. Do you know John? Yeah, he's municipal sales at Core and Main in Henderson, and he's been doing it for like 40 years. At least 40 years. And he was a contractor, municipal sales, and I remember I just started 2013. I went to Olean so I started on January 2nd, 2013, and in February I went on my first business trip, which was to go, for the product launch for the triple tap. And I remember them talking about the cutting and doing a flat butt weld, right? That, so you hit the flex in the neck. Yeah, the flex in the neck that gives the for HDPE. And so I'm showing John this, and he goes, huh? And he's like, that's pretty cool. I've never seen that before. I'm like, how long you been doing this? And back then he was like, 30 years. And I'm like, that's the first time you ever seen that? And he was like, yeah. And I go, shit, dude, I got a lot to learn. Like, I'll never learn it all. And you never will. And once you realize you won't. So that was a game-changing moment. The other one was Holly Link was the head of engineering, or standards engineer, not head, engineering standards for Colorado Springs Utilities. And I remember a lot of manufacturers would get upset because they were like, well, Colorado Springs just thinks they're special. Like, they want everything 250 PSI working pressure rated. And I remember talking to Holly, and she knew that, but talking to her, I'm like, she'd be like, oh, they don't want to work with us. I'm like, no, we do want to try and figure out something for that. And she's like, no, they don't want to work with us because they think they don't like the fact that we have these different standards. And she said, AWWA is the minimum. Like, that is the minimum standard for an industry. That's not our system. We run our system on our standards. AWWA is the minimum. Our system stands on its own. And I've always said that is what works in Colorado Springs doesn't work. May not work in Laramie, Wyoming. What works in Laramie, Wyoming may not work in Billings, Montana, or LADWP or Las Vegas. Until the municipalities demand change that is for their system, the manufacturers, they're not going to do it. It's kind of like, look, it's like what I tell my wife, like, I'm not a mind reader, right? If you don't tell me what I'm doing wrong, I can't fix it. So and with the younger generation, I'm hoping that when we do a lot of stuff with education, I'm hoping that they'll go in and say, no, these are our challenges. These are our pains. These are what we need. And what I think will happen is that you're going to weed out the good and the bad manufacturers, because we know the bad manufacturers and they exist. And we know the good, and the good ones are the ones that exist to solve problems. And if you don't understand as a manufacturer that that's what your job is, what are you doing?
Well, unfortunately, manufacturers are, you're just a sales guy. You're not in charge. You're not a designer. You're not an engineer. And the sales guy has numbers to hit. Otherwise, he gets fired. So if a sales guy is passionate about doing something crazy for one water district, and that product's overspec,
then you tell me who that sales guy is, and I'll find him a place though. Because if somebody's passionate, that guy will win. Like if you're solving problems, that's sales. Sales is not pushing a product.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, things have happened. Ductile iron has taken over the cast iron. PSIs have gone up. I mean, typically now MJs are rated to 350 PSI, not 200 PSI. Plastic pipe, DR14, DR21, whatever DR you're dealing with, those standards are raised, right? You can get a DR18 rated 235 PSI, but the ductile iron guy says, nope, it's a 150 PSI pipe. And then you look at, okay, we have to test every stick of plastic pipe, but we batch test ductile iron pipe. And
I wonder if those do you think those organizations have DIPRA, those guys have anything to do with that? Where they get together in the best?
So I used to work for a plastic
pipe institute.
Yeah, PPI and Unibel used to come to our sales meetings once a year.
Yeah.
And those two guys were about ready to fist fight each other. And it's like, no, we're having a sales meeting. You pitch your stuff. And they're like, we can't believe you're mixing polyethylene and PVC C900. This is crap.
I'm going to tell you one thing that needs to go away in this industry. And it's the attitude that our shit
is better than your shit.
Well, not only that. No, not that. It's that our shit is don't use this. Use this. And this works this should work. Why isn't everyone using this? And that's what I tell them, because I can tell you right now, iron pipe does not fucking work in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I can promise you that. They've tried it. They put cathodic. It does not work. Now they're bursting out pipe and putting in PVC sections. HDPE pipe seems to be working well for Colorado Springs utilities. The problem is the fuse process doesn't seem to be working well for them, because those are the failures. So they're looking for mechanical solutions with HDPE. And the problem is a manufacturer goes, oh, I'm not going to provide that. Why? Because that takes us out of business.
Well, South Dakota, they polyurethane coat. They bronze bolt it because the soil's so hot. And you see a lot of this going on right now where people are starting to get hip to the specifications, but really, a weathering steel Core 10 is fine in the right environment. And you look at the installation process. You're going up a hill, around a mountain. Roll trenching might be a little bit easier than stand piping. And I'm a big advocate of ductile, PVC, C900, IPS pressure, and polyethylene all have their place.
Exactly. That's what. And stop fighting and putting in work and work. There's 2.2 million miles of pipe. I mean, for anyone listening, 2.2 million miles of pipeline. There's enough business for every single person who had a booth at AWWA today or this week to be fine for a while if you want to solve problems. Yeah, but if it's not the right application, what I usually find is it's when you have failures, are there manufacturing defects? Do they exist? Yeah, but it's 99% of the time, it's improper installation, not the right application, improper material selection, or not understanding system dynamics that are in play. And if everyone would just go to solve the problems, we wouldn't have to have institutes fighting against each other and putting out technical white papers and trying to get it to make the news to put some industry out of business. It's bullshit. And I hope it stops. But the only way it stops is when the only way that this stuff is going to stop is when we get these young guys, and I know because, look, I have an 18-year-old and he's smug and arrogant. And I love now talking to some of these guys who are 22, 23, and they want to change the world because I remember when I wanted to do that. We should embrace that. And we should be like, let them solve those problems. And if they say, no, we're not, like kind of what Holly Link said, no, that doesn't work here. That's the minimum. You want to be here? We need 250 PSI minimum working pressure. Well, the ironic thing about that is their freaking fire hydrants weren't even rated 250 PSI working pressure. But we can start somewhere.
Well, infrastructure exists, like restraint. Everyone loves restraint now. Mm-hmm. I go from pouring a VW-sized concrete kicker to a 3-gallon concrete kicker. And Flint, Michigan. Oh, my God. So I used to work for Walter Wayne, JM Eagle. He offered all the pipe for free.
Oh, dude, if I could get you to drink some more of that Buffalo Trace. Like...
you could get a lot out of it. But
just kidding.
No, but Walter Wayne offered he said, for free, I'll give you all the pipe to repipe Flint, Michigan. And Dipper got involved. And they said, no effing way. And they're fighting over the cost of the pipe. We all know it's labor, trenching, shoring.
Yeah.
The pipe getting for free is a bonus, right? I mean, it's millions and millions of dollars, but the cost is probably tens of millions of dollars to replace. And it was such a shame to say to a city, you could have had free material. But we all know that material is 10%.
Right.
Labor is 90%.
Yep.
And because of politics, that problem is still not solved today. It's just been downgraded as far as the political height.
What a missed opportunity. Like, what a missed opportunity to figure out, like, or to put the industry in a positive limelight, because everyone looked at that as I mean, I remember when I heard about Flint, Michigan, it was like, what are we living in, like the archaic times, like lead poisoning. And then it kicked off all kinds of crap. What a missed opportunity for the industry to go in and to get people to understand what is going on. And a lot of it, and then to even understand what happens when you get it's kind of like when you start doing flushing, hydrant flushing, right? What happens? People start complaining because their water's brown, right? Because you're stirring up, you're creating laminar flow. Like people don't realize, take a picture inside the pipe and be like, you're drinking that? And I mean, and you test out, it's fine, but it passes water quality. But if people saw it, then you could understand and educate. I will give a shout out to like Aurora Water, where I'm a customer of Aurora Water here, and they are they are beyond, or they're what I've seen from when I've started to what they're doing and how they're looking at. They really do, or they're a big utility that is trying to find ways to be more efficient and trying to find solutions. And the cool thing is they're going in. My son comes home and brings home a workbook when he was in elementary school about where water comes from. I'm like, what? No one did that. So these guys are out there trying. That's the type of stuff and the outreach that I think it needs to start happening, and to try to get people to understand what is involved. And I don't know if it's like a push that's like, from like whatever it is, but that's a good way to do things, to start getting people educated.
I used to ppm monitor my water in LA, and when it rained,
I bet you they hated you.
When it rained, it went from 80 ppm to 200 ppm. So on 2 days after it rained, I would not touch my tap water.
Well, I wouldn't touch tap water in California anyway.
Well, most of it's actually pretty good. I mean, like I grew up in a town called Fresno, California.
Oh, yeah. I mean, didn't you guys suck that aquifer dry?
Well, yeah. The ground sank about 3 feet.
The almonds were fine.
The almonds, almond milk, pistachios. Yeah, we were all about those things.
Yeah.
But, and then the other thing is you look at irrigation water, agricultural water, and potable water. $5, 100 acre foot versus 10 cents an acre foot. You start to see these things where it's going, well, this is the same quality water.
Yeah.
But some guy's paying 10 cents and somebody's paying $50.
Well, this is where if you want to get into a political thing this is where this type of conversation, when is water a right? Right? Everyone said, is water a right? Is healthcare a right? And what I say at this point is, who gives a shit? Here's the bottom line. If you guys don't provide it correctly or properly and you're screwing people over, then at some point, they're going to make it a right. Or they're going to take control of it. And like just what we talked about, I'm pretty sure most people agree. I mean, if you want to look at how we're handling it, like the BABA and all like the confusion, government is not going to freaking provide it and make it right. So if the companies aren't going to get responsible in figuring out how is water a right? I mean, do you have sure, you have a right to go find it and drink it, but somebody's treating it. There's work that's involved. There's a lot of a process. There's a huge process, but if we're not going to figure out how to do it efficiently, then at some point the government's going to go, okay, it's a right. I mean, and that's kind of how history dictates itself. I mean, we go from when people are mad because they're not getting shit correctly and they're getting screwed, so to where they all of a sudden hand over to want the government to go do everything for them.
Ambiguity, complexity, uncertainty. You know, you brought up healthcare. So I'm half Danish, half Japanese.
Yeah.
And in Japan, you go to the doctor, they don't tell you what's wrong. They don't tell you what's wrong, they just treat you. In Denmark, they give you the standard course of business. So my grandma had her bridge collapse on her nose. And we didn't know why. And we asked the doctors and said, that's none of your business. And people are like, well, Japan, they got free healthcare. Well, that's what free healthcare provides you. In Denmark, they have free healthcare. Well, if you have prostate cancer in Denmark, you get one surgery, and you got a 1 in 3 chance of your penis ever having an erection. I mean, it's kind of scary. Yeah, and in the U.S., we got laparoscopic surgery, we got the Da Vinci robot, we got radioactive beads, we got cryogenic. It's a free market capitalist.
And we got Ozempic now.
Yeah, we got Ozempic. You don't need. Yeah, I mean, but I guess a lot of people are like, "Wow, I pay a lot of money for healthcare." And actually, for senior citizens, retired citizens, that's one of the biggest costs. But you got options.
Yeah.
And in the water industry, we actually have an amazing diversity of products and options for you in our industry because we're America.
Yeah.
And I was kind of rolling back to what I was saying. You know, in Romania, it's a Romanian fire hydrant.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's a fire hydrant that comes from the ground. You got to twist it up, and it comes up out of the ground. And you attach a hose to it. And
yeah.
When you're in ideal European circumstances, it seems like it's freaking great. You know, I mean, I think you probably met some of these European companies and their European engineers, and like, the reason why we're better than you is because we perform better. And like, we take that as condescending and an insult. But they're just matter of fact. They're
I just thought it was like it was kind of like from Goldmember. You know, I was like, I'm from Holland, everybody. Isn't that weird?
Well, you know.
But here's, I mean, to your point, you've been doing it for a long time, and I do look at products in Europe, and I'm like, why did it take us that long to figure that out? And they've been doing it for how long? Or like, you know, even some of the stuff that goes on in Israel in manufacturing. And I mean,
drip irrigation is amazing.
Drip irrigation.
I think people want to hear about our industry.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to hear the history of the past. You know, just a little quick history on Dresser. You know, we're competing with Standard Oil. Couldn't compete. So we started making the couplings for the oil pipelines. And our competition was leaded called joints. And that's how we got.
You guys started in water, right? Or no?
No, we were an oil company.
Okay, but everyone knew, because everyone calls it a dresser coupling.
Yeah, every 10 feet of pipe.
Dresser style.
Every 10 feet of pipe, there was no bell and spigots back in the day. It was a dresser coupling every 10 feet. Mm-hmm. The train used to come in with raw material,
right?
Leave full of dresser product. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in our industry don't know the history. Don't know the products.
No, but they know dresser, which is crazy because I'd try and get other stuff that's been in for a while. And they're like, was it dresser style? I'm like, have you called dresser lately? Like, call dresser 5 years ago. They'd be like, what? With a water problem.
It's a call a master distributor.
Yeah, call the master distributor. Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I think water is so important to our future and proper infrastructure. But we really are in a situation where we need easier products, better standards, cheaper products. And it should be made in the USA, which dressers never changed anything. So when Baba and AES came out,
Good.
Wouldn't have to change a damn thing.
And that's good.
Yeah.
And to your point, we need better products, right? We need to listen and solve the problems and not look at it like, oh, we can't that's kind of like a competition to us. Sometimes it's not. Solve the problem, you'll win. Solve the problem. That's what we need in the industry. Solve the problem. Listen to the guys on the ground. Because, I had George Sigalakis on. I don't know if you know the Spartan Hydrant.
Yes, Spartan Hydrant.
The guys, love the guy. He's super passionate. And sometimes that passion turns off people. I told him, I said, don't change a damn thing. Because you being you is what got you here. He's got some time. He can be abrasive, right? He saw the need that he knew. I didn't even know his history until I talked to him about where he started looking at below. As a firefighter, you only care about the above ground. It works. Yeah, as I tell, when I get a city together, or if I have the operators and the firefighters together, right? And the operators all go, oh, these guys slam fire hydrants shut, they cause water hammer and blah, 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 right? And then the firefighters are sitting there. And I'll look at the city and I'll go, look, okay, so I'll look at the firefighters and I'll go, I understand how important this tool is to you guys, okay? But can you understand for these guys, this is a valuable tool in the distribution system for water quality and maintaining reliability of the system. And then I'll go to the water operators. Water operators, do you understand that these guys don't give a shit about your freaking tool? And you don't want them to. For them, this is emergency life-saving access. After 5 minutes, every some odd seconds, fire doubles in size. It's quick. You don't want them to. If your kids are in there, if it's your family, do you want them to care about slamming it shut or how quickly they operate it? It's life-saving access. And so George looked at it from the top down. And then where for him the game-changing moment was once he started working through his relationship with the fire department and getting in touch with people who are in the water industry, the guy said, no, you're absolutely right here. This does solve a problem. But our pain from a utility standpoint is also down here. And then going down to the stem it's insane. His story is crazy, but those are the types of outside the box innovative solutions that are needed just to as long as the intent is to solve a problem. What's the pain? Let's solve it. We can do that. And I even told him, so he has a lot of, and the point being that because of that, he has some animosity towards, the status quo. Whether it's XYZ brand, the brands that we all know of, whether it's the Muellers, the Cloud, the Kennedy. And I said, George, I think if you could go back in time and you could talk to Watts, company like Watts, we've been in business since 1904. You could talk to somebody like Joseph E. Watts, or you could talk to Mr. Mueller or Mr.
Solomon
Kennedy.
Dresser.
I think you would find that you have a lot more in common with those guys or the Earl Bradley. You had a lot more in common. That is what we need more of. We need to encourage that. And I feel like in this industry, when somebody comes out with something that's new and innovative, they're immediately thrown to, oh, that shit doesn't work because we've been doing it for 50 years. Well, maybe we figured out how to fucking do it better. We stop innovating, and that's when we lose our edge. If you're not innovating, you're stagnant, and we have to figure out the problem. So, hey man, I appreciate the time. Did you have a good show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good show at the Waterworks?
Yep.
AWWA, great, busy.
Busy. And Dresser's back in the water industry, and everyone's getting to see us, and pretty soon we'll be the Dresser home name again.
Well, I appreciate you and everything you've done. Our guys, I know they love working with you, and so I thank you. Thank you for everything you do, Bo. All right. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate Red Masters, appreciate Brent and the vision and the effort that goes behind it. And, it's not easy. It's not easy to be a rep.
No, but it's fun. Reps always have the answers. At least that's what Jim Jolly tells me.
We'll leave it at that.